I'm a World War II veteran. Hello Reddit, I'm a World War II veteran. I have done this IAmA again after my grandson saw a request for World War II veterans. I'm 89, born on 5th of November 1924 in Eastbourne, Sussex. I fought for the British Army in the Royal Hampshire Regiment during the final years of World War II. While my regiment was on the way to Burma, we got redirected to Palestine, where we spent several weeks fighting in jungle gear and jungle carbines. I was a teenager during the Battle of Britain and grew up during the Great Depression. I moved to New Zealand in 1953. I can also answer some questions about World War I as my father fought there in every major battle on the Western Front under the Royal Engineers. Ask me anything. Proof, me now and in my army uniform with my family just before I was deployed. Do you still keep in touch with anyone you fought with? Yes, I did. Not anymore because all of my friends who I fought with have since passed away. The most recent being Pete, my best friend, since I was 5. How was your home different when you got back from fighting overseas? I was surprised that war rations were still around after the war had ended 3 years earlier. How were you different after fighting overseas? I had more respect for people, most namely Jews. I even married a Jewish woman. I also understood some of the hell my dad went through. Were you ever given a command to which you were morally opposed? If so, how did you proceed? No, we were given some silly orders such as drills that we had to do because we were in the army. Is there anyone you can thank for your survival or can thank you for this? I guess I can thank my comrades and they can thank me. We were like a family and we kept each other sane in a hostile environment far away from home. If there was one thing you could have done differently, what would it be? Not be in the army. However, I enjoyed my time in the army. They did more bullshit training than actually training. What I did enjoy is doing the firearms training, and we didn't do enough, probably because I was quite a shot. Thanks for doing this. What do you think about America using the atomic bomb on Japan to end the war? Bloody good. They deserved it, pulled them out of the war, and saved a lot of lives on both sides. However, it is still upsetting that innocent civilians were caught by it. How do you feel about a lot of countries owning nuclear weapons in today's world? A bit on edge. All it takes someone to make one wrong move and we could have a nuclear war. It's not as big of a threat as it was during the Cold War. I have several. Not expressly about World War II but in general. Was King George V as much a symbol for resistance for soldiers as history makes him out to be? King George V not as much as an inspiration like history made him out to be. We were fighting for our country, he was just a king. Was America's unwillingness to get involved until after Pearl Harbor a cause for anger for you? No, to my idea Pearl Harbor was a dirty sneak attack. I was happy just to get supplies from the USA. Had Pearl Harbor not happened, America will have eventually joined the war, but not until later like in World War I. What change in the world most disturbs you from your childhood into today? How quickly countries can obtain weapons of mass destruction. And also in most countries, how lack the prison sentencings are. Most vivid memory? We had a piss poor CEO, he was shagging the bank manager's wife. His driver Corporal Mac would bring his fishing rod while he was waiting. Do you know how many people you've killed? I will answer that for him as it is quite an emotional topic from what I have been told. 1 confirmed in comments if you have time to scroll down in 3 possible. What was the most intense moment of the war for you? When we came under attack on our battalion day off, we came under attack from the Arabs lobbing grenades at us. Someone yelled out "Mott" as we got down and opened up fire. I saw one run out of cover, lined him up, and fired my rifle at his chest. He clutched his chest. After the skirmish I went to where he was shot and saw a blood trailer going to a tree 10 meters away, and I saw his dead body. Did you feel sympathetic for him, or did you block it out? Sorry, just curious. I did both. Even now it is a bit hard to recall. In your opinion, how do we fix this crazy broken world? Just make everyone shake hands and become friendly and band together to get us out of the recession. And we need to cut down salaries and even them out. For example, not give CEOs $17,000 pay rises and give the lower workers $1,000. Even it out so the bosses don't get paid more than for being the bosses, and use that surplus money to get more people in the workforce. Did you bring home and really awesome souvenirs from the war? What was the funniest thing you saw while in the war? An American .30 cal machine gun ammo box. Probably as Eastbourne was bummed seeing the milkman race down the road on his bike and come into our house and dive under our table with me. Looking back at your life, would you go back into the army, or would you have rather taken another route in your life? Thank you. No, I would have joined the RAF. The army was my last choice. That's the Royal Air Force for you Yanks. How do you think Americans today treat soldiers compared to World War II era? Are there any differences? How America needed its allies in World War II to take some of the grunt off of them. Today people see the USA as being a force in its own right, which is true, but America still needs to maintain strong relations with other countries. That's why NATO is a very effective force. It won't be long before we have no more World War II veterans with us. If you could pass on one message to future generations, what would it be? Enjoy that there are no more world wars and hope there is never another one again. And enjoy the time you spent with your family. What was your reaction when you heard the Soviet Union joined the war? Let's hope that they don't have another revolution and leave us to the mercy of Germany. What was your reaction to the Soviets in the Cold War? As in, did your opinion of them change? They had replaced the enemy from one enemy to another. Did you make any soldier friends from foreign countries while in the war? If so, from which countries? And what were their militaries like? Yes, I did. He was a Jewish person in our regiment. I can't pronounce or remember his name, sorry. Aside from that, I may have met other people that I can't remember. Finally, who should we worry about in terms of country in the coming future? Iran. The fact that the government is such a hatred towards Israel and wants to wipe it off the map. And also Syria. Why is NATO not intervening? They did with Libya, and Russia has begun to distance themselves with Syria. Thank you for doing this. Just one question for you. Given that you were fighting for the British, did you ever work with American soldiers? If so, what were the notable differences that stood out to you? No, I did not, sorry. But from pictures they were much bigger than us. Just like the New Zealanders and Australians. What is one thing from the war you feel should be taught more so than it is? Or one thing from history books that is misleading/incorrect? I cannot think of anything at the moment. Probably that in the later years of the war England still played a major role. A lot of people think of Russia or the US. Do you feel, given your involvement in the war, that America is far too warlike? Do you feel that it's necessary for us to police the world? Yes, and America and NATO are the closest we have to a police force. UN not as much, with the ease of vetoing from the permanent security councillors. What was your hardest, most terrible experience in the war? What was your best, most memorable experience? Hardest was seeing the cat shoot the private who was being crushed under a tank. Happiest was meeting my wife afterwards, and when the war had finished. What was a typical soldier's view of Hitler? He was the leader of the enemy. This is before we knew how evil he was. Did the public know the details about what was going on the concentration camps? We only found out early 1945. I'm not too sure about the general public. If you were in a room with Hitler and could have asked him one thing, what would you have asked? I would force him to go through all the pain and suffering he caused people. Did the army know about the other ruthless bastards like Himmler or Hess? No, we didn't. Did you know anybody who lost their life on Normandy? 2 of my cousins were killed. What image of war has stuck with you the most throughout your life? What is the most traumatic thing you have seen? Getting bombs dropped. My bunkmate in basic training stuck his head to high while crawling under barbed wire with machine guns above. He was shot in the head right in front of me. How you value Great Britain today? With all that immigration, Islamization, appearing Sharia zones? Was it right country to fight for? Just tell me what you think. You are too old to afraid thought police anyway. I see them as a lesser superpower, but still honored to have fought for Great Britain. Personally, I wish that didn't have to exist, that we could all accept each other and get along. I still feel I made the right choice serving with the British Army. Thank you for your questions. If you want me to integrate a detail, please ask. I'm limited as I do not live in England anymore. I live in New Zealand where there is more of a racial equality. How do you feel about warfare today in comparison to how it was in World War II? Warfare today is much more mechanized and mobile, which is a good thing and a bad thing. Good because it helps reduce casualties on one side, bad because it softens the soldiers. Do you often reminisce on your experiences during the war? Yes, I do, mainly to my grandson. Do you think World War III is an inevitability? No, it's not. I would like to keep thinking that also a world war is the worst kind? How has the war shaped your perception of the world, if at all? Do you stop and smell the roses more often? Yes, I do. It certainly made me more appreciative of life in general. Did you ever have any close calls? Probably being shot at by Jewish insurgents while coming out of a Tel Aviv cinema. Apparently it is quite a famous event during the conflict. Is it true that the majority of soldiers don't shoot to kill? Were you one of them? I shot to defend myself. That is how I killed someone. And yes, that is true. However, the only time I shot that was to defend myself, which I guess is shoot to kill, as horrible as this sounds. My question is, during the war did you or any of the soldiers in your company really know about the atrocities committed by the Nazis? Or was this something you discovered after the war? We found out before the day around Feb 2 March 1945. Photos were passed around showing the camps and prisoners. Do you feel that the sense of accomplishment and heroism that was rightfully bestowed on the Allied World War II soldiers helped with coping with the aftermath of warfare? Something that modern day Western soldiers might not feel. Yes, it did. It helped us feel like we had saved the world. AMD righted our generation's main evils. Yes and no. Today's warfare is much different. Everyone deserves a bit of accomplishment for what they have done, regardless of what war they are in. Hopefully you have time to answer this. It's sort of a silly question, but here goes anyways. Did you have free time during the war? If you did, what did you do? Yeah, I have time. It isn't silly. Yes, we had free time and we would spend it at the cinemas or fishing. As a fellow Brit and aspiring soldier to Her Majesty's Royal Marines, how do you feel about the size of our nation's military and the impact our forces have on other nations? Good to hear, a Royal Marine. I have respect for all servicemen and women. Our nation's military is very good and our size is very good in terms of where we are situated and where we have troops deployed off to. Sorry if it doesn't answer your question fully. I have not lived in the UK for over 60 years. I respect you for your service, my friend. Thanks for your interest. Any thoughts on the psychological effect of it in your life? No, not in my opinion. I guess I went away a 19-year-old boy and returned a 24-year changed person. Having been stationed in Palestine, I'm interested to hear your opinion on what is going on there now. Do you think there will ever be peace in that region? No, I don't. Well, not anytime soon. Can you tell me what differences you see in how the public views World War II now against a generation earlier? Have you received more or less attention? Is there ignorance, indifference, or an increase in respect? Less attention, probably because our children's generation was the next one. My grandkids' generation, although there are some that show attention. However, there are others that see old people as being old. They don't stop to realize what they may have seen in their lives.